Good
Now I
evening.
feel. Now I'm motivated. Now I'm
Yes,
motivated.
I
That
know
was
that
awesome.
that does kick it in gear a little bit.
A
I
little
love
bit.
that song. Yeah, yeah. So, welcome back to another episode of TSP the Scuttlebutt. Today we have the privilege of sitting down with Mr. Preston Stewart. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yes, sir.
Hoorah!
So, just to give you a little bit of what we do here, Andrew and I have been doing this since 4th of July, and we started off with audio only. So this is what our fourth or fifth video going live on. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. So what we did is this it started generating a little bit of money through Patreon. Our Patreon supporters, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
I've I felt that I did I felt weird about generating money off of people's war stories. You know what I'm saying? And that's not what this was all about. So what I did is I turned this into a nonprofit. So as of January 14th, we are a nonprofit. The nonprofit's name is Minutes Wisely, and so I actually run two different podcasts. This one and a sports podcast called the Nosebleed Report. The
Hey,
money
that was a great episode this morning, by
that
the way.
goes Sunday mornings at 0900, but that money it's generated from that goes to youth sports. This money that from this goes back to helping veterans in the community. We got some great things going on. So if you guys feel up to it, go ahead and go to Patreon, support us, and there's many ways you can support us. But
Yeah. Thank
speaking
you.
of support, we have our show sponsor. So I'm going to play a little
Bring
clip
it
from
on, baby. Bring it on.
all right.
Dude, that's so much better than me
Yeah.
saying the advertisement. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeffrey Sabins.
Our friend and show supporter Jeffrey Sabins. He is a retired Marine. He was in the Marine Corps for 17 years and literally fought the entire 17 years. He's one of our biggest supporters here, and he's just a great guy. When he got out of the Marine Corps, he started Proven Valor. He does a lot of great things over there. And he's
Preston,
also in Tennessee. He's in
I got,
Tennessee also, but he's
yeah,
on the other side.
I got to serve with him. We were corporals together in Ramadi and the 22nd Mews. So Jeff is Gunny Sabins is a good man.
Awesome.
Yes, they actually they earned their Purple Hearts on the same day,
We did.
But not together.
Not together. He had his in the morning and I had mine at night. July 27th, 2006 or something like that. I don't know. Starting to get a little fuzzy now.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, by the way, Joey King just said hi. So, hey,
Yes.
Joey King, what's up, man?
Joey King, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next week.
Mr. Stewart, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Who are you, Preston?
Who's Preston Stewart?
Well, so my wife and I live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We have a small business here. My background, I was in the Army, commissioned through West Point 2009 as a field artillery officer. So went straight to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, or to Fort Sill for kind of the basic officer training course there for field artillerymen. Then to Fort Campbell with the 101st, 2nd Brigade.
Screaming Eagles.
There we go. A couple trips over to Afghanistan as a fire support officer, the company, and then the battalion level. Left active duty, moved into the National Guard, spent a little time in the Texas National Guard, commanded a HIMARS firing battery down there. And I'm in the Army Reserve now. So in a unit that trains ROTC cadets based out of Fort Campbell. And then on the side, I guess I'll say, I work on military history content, YouTube, TikTok, and a podcast as well.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man. So, okay, let's start back in like high school. What made you decide to go to West Point? Because that is a fairly big commitment. I mean,
huge.
You're giving 4 years of your life to go to a military school. That's pretty amazing.
I wanted to play hockey in college was my big plan.
You're
Yeah,
what?
we talked about this, right?
Oh, that's right.
Culver
Yeah,
Academy.
that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
So I went off to a boarding school called Culver Academy with aspirations of playing beyond high school, and kind of got humbled in that regard. But Culver has a military program. You put on a uniform and march each day. And I was a sophomore there on 9/11. So it kind of triggered the idea of wanting to be. I shouldn't say that. Both my grandparents were in the Army. Both my grandparents were in the military. One in the Army, one in the Air Force, and grew up playing Army, all that stuff. I really enjoyed military history. Back watching the History Channel when the History Channel was actually, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And so 9/11 was just kind of a trigger to try to pursue that. I knew that I wanted to go to college, and to me that seemed like well, Army and college, West Point's one of the ways you can do that, and just started trying to head that direction.
So, like West Point, I have a zillion questions about West Point. I've always wanted to talk to somebody that went to academy. So, is West Point like going to college but being in boot camp for 4 years? Are they like screaming at you and being dicks to you the whole time?
Oh,
There's there's something called Beast Barracks. It's like a basic training for cadets. This is West Point. 6-7 weeks your first summer when you get there, and that's a version of basic. It's a lot different in a lot of ways, similar in some ways. When you come out of that, your freshman year kind of sucks as a plebe. Like you can't talk outside during the duty day. You have to march everywhere, so hands cupped at your sides, squaring corners in the barracks, that kind of stuff. So you're kind of on lockdown as a freshman, but not necessarily getting yelled at all the time. They ask a lot of you. Like each day, you'd have to know how many days it is until graduation, 100 days until graduation, Christmas break, the Army Navy game. So they would ask you, today, how many days until we beat Navy? You have to say there are 57 days until
it'll
we
never
beat Navy.
never happen.
Yeah, I was gonna
It,
say
never
it didn't
happened.
when I was there. It never happened when I was there.
Never happened. Go Navy.
So it's that kind of, it's more like a mental hazing kind of thing.
Mhm.
You had to know the next 3 meals that were being served at all times. So somebody could stop you at breakfast and say, "What are we having for dinner?" You had to be able to rattle it off.
What?
That kind of stuff. Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah, that makes for a long 1 year.
it was a long 1 year, but it's one of those things where, looking back, it was beneficial because how many times in the military do you get some direction or an order,
Right.
and you got to remember that the details, the little details, and be able to take that out and execute.
Yeah. So I've heard that you need like a congressional appointment. Is that true?
Yeah. So another little thing I do now is I serve as a military academy liaison officer for the Tennessee 4th Congressional District. So a admissions liaison to West Point for any high school students here in Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. So that's part of it, is walking them through the nomination process. So every cadet at West Point has to have a nomination. Nomination can come from their congressperson, U.S. congressperson, senator, there's vice presidential, and then there's a couple others that can be handed out, ROTC, things like that. But the vast majority come from Congress people.
So how many kids join every year through West Point? Like, what's the class size?
Classes start between 12 and 1,400. I think mine was about 1,250.
Damn, that's a big
And then
class.
the graduating class is between 900 and 1,000, usually just under 1,000.
Oh, so a couple hundred drop.
Yeah.
Wow. That
Yeah,
puts
so,
it into perspective. Damn.
I know very little about the academies, but I know just because I'm such a Navy fan. That's why I served in the Navy. But I know that the midshipmen, or what do you call them, plebes?
Plebes or cadets at West Point,
Cadet.
midshipmen at Navy. Yeah.
Okay, so they grease a pole and they have to climb this grease pole to get their cover off. Do you guys have to do some crazy shit like that?
That's a little too Navy. Climbing grease poles.
I guess I stepped into that one.
Yeah, right away.
I was like, what the hell's the point of that? Like, they're all standing on top of each other and they're falling off. It's like,
It's something that you make fun of at West Point.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's It's too easy, right? It's like
It's too easy. Very nice.
a layup.
Yes. You're probably waiting for me to ask that question.
I haven't been asked that in a while, to be honest. That's great.
Preston, what did you major in at West Point?
International relations, and then I minored in their terrorism studies program. So they were
Oh,
standing up kind of some terrorism stuff that was pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
so you're in the reserves now. What is your rank?
I'm a captain now.
Captain.
I've been waiting now for 2 months for the board results to come out for major, so should be moving up. I'm behind my classmates. I had a 4-year break in service after 3-year break in service after active. I went into the inactive individual ready reserve and didn't wear the uniform for 3 years. Then got back into the National Guard. So I've been playing catch up for a couple of years, and hopefully back on track now.
Right on.
Well, we're praying for you. Hope you get major.
Appreciate
Yes, that would be awesome. So where do you go for your 2 weeks a year?
So the unit that I'm in right now is at Fort Knox, Kentucky. So my team drills out of Fort Campbell, but our main unit is at Fort Knox, and we go to Fort Knox for our mission, if you will, each year, which is just training ROTC cadets. So that's where they spend their summers. There's a couple different camps they attend, depending on where they are in the program. Rappelling and the confidence obstacle course is what our team assisted with the last couple of years. So we've got the safeties, demonstrators, things like that. 2 weeks straight of running cadets through that stuff.
Have you ever seen the room where they keep all the gold?
No, I've driven past it, but they didn't. It's right there. Have you guys been to
much
Knox?
gold in there?
I have never.
Yeah,
I've never been.
it's easily visible from the road. Like you can see the building. But yeah, I have no idea how to get back there. I don't know if they do tours or if they ever used to or any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually. I would love to see that.
Too.
Knox is interesting. So Knox has a mock-up of an old Navy ship on base, full size.
Whoa.
Full size.
An LST from World War II. So one of the landing ships.
Land ship tank. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So we were just talking to a guy the other day who wrote a book about LCIs and LSTs. I was telling him about this. But when they were building those for World War II, they had a problem of how do you get the tanks to idle inside the craft and not kill everybody, because that exhaust just sitting there, as soon as the ramp goes down, those tanks got to go. So they were trying to figure out this exhaust problem, and Fort Knox was the home of the armor. That's where all the most of the armored units were training. So they built this mock-up out of wood to test out different ventilation systems, or at least that's my understanding. And they had one at Knox and one somewhere else where they would drive tanks in and turn them on and see how it worked. So it's still there. It's pretty decrepit. You can't go in it anymore. There's asbestos signs all over it. But from when you drive by it, you're like, that thing looks weird. And then as soon as you hear LST, you're like, that's it. That's what it is.
LST 325 comes down to Nashville once in a while.
Yeah, I've seen it there.
I got to see that and get on it, and it's an incredible ship. I mean, I can't even imagine how it was back in its heyday.
All
Yeah.
right. Before we get on to Afghanistan, can you explain that little horse behind your shoulder?
This is my
oh yeah,
my artwork, 4-year-old artwork.
Nice.
Well, it was a 3-year-old. Now she's a 4-year-old.
Yes.
I don't know. Somebody helped her put it together, and she did some sketches on there. And then she came in the office and she plastered it right on the wall.
Heck
and
yeah.
I'm not going to risk a 4-year-old's wrath by taking that down.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Good idea.
It wasn't intentionally to line up in the sheet. Figured that out, how somehow it's in every video.
Covering the line, baby.
Nice.
Covering the line.
She's very smart
Yeah.
for her age. You said you were deployed to Afghanistan. What years were you in Afghanistan, and what kind of stuff did you guys do while you were there?
So I was in RC South, Kandahar, from June 2010 to June 2011 as a company fire support officer, and then in Regional Command East as a battalion fire support officer from May to December 2012. So 19 months total between the two. 2010-11 was the surge, the big troop surge in the South. So the Marines had pushed in all across Helmand. Next up in the chute was our push through Kandahar. So the heartland of the Taliban is what they called it, kind of where the Taliban was formed. So we were on a base called Hausi Madad and pushed down south of Highway 1 into kind of some agricultural areas that were generally unoccupied. It was just fighting territory. And we spent the year pushing down into there, establishing strong points, and trying to rid the area of the Taliban.
I think my guys were over there at the same time. 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines.
We had zero interactions with Marines, just the
Really?
way it was. Yeah, just the way the battle spaces worked out. They were just a couple of miles away, but never. We just didn't cross paths. Yeah,
That's probably good for you guys. Marines are
what?
are out
Hey,
there, man.
hey, come on, man! Seriously?
it was a very similar fight from Helmand to Kandahar. A lot of similar experiences there.
Today, Fleek, it's Easter, man, and
Oh,
you're,
yeah,
you're
for
still
God's-
making fun of the Marine Corps. Come on, man. We got a lot of Marines in our VFW posts. They're gonna see this. They're gonna get mad at you. Come on, you gotta say something nice about us.
They're used to me. So,
Oh, sorry.
so you being the officer, the man in charge, do you actually get to fire the
man in
weapons, or are you
charge.
just bossing your guys around to fire the weapons?
Yeah, so as the fire support officer, my job was to coordinate the large fires in support of the infantry company that I was attached to. So I was in Dog Company 2502 Infantry and had 3 fire supporters on my team. In Army lingo, that's 13 Fox or FO. And I would dole my guys out to the various platoons, and their job then, when we would move out on a patrol or at the strong point, is to coordinate strikes from helicopters, aircraft, mortars, and artillery.
Who is that dog, Commander?
That's my son's dog.
Oh, okay. I was like, I've never seen
Guest
that
appearance.
dog before.
Yeah, she was knocking on the door, so let's let her in.
Well, Preston,
Yeah.
that's a heavy weight, man, to do what you did. That's pretty cool. Thank you.
Yes,
I appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Yeah, that was the job I wanted to do. Got lucky. Doesn't always work that way in the Army. Doesn't always work that way in the military. But I got to do the thing that I wanted to do. So
It's wow.
It's so. Did you guys take any casualties?
the battalion lost 18 over the course of the year. So this was the 2010-11 was the deadliest year for the 101st since Vietnam.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
The brigade was, I want to say, 60 some.
Holy moly!
So it was pretty kinetic, pretty constant. I think the first morning we woke up at Hausi Madad, woke up to gunfire. What the heck is that?
Right.
What is that weird sound? And it just kind of continued throughout. The last soldier, Brandon Curtin, that we lost was on our very last mission, air assault into an area. We ended our deployment doing these air assault missions into various points all across RC South. We go in for 2 to 3 days. The idea to kind of stir things up and then take off. And this was May 18th. Curtin died, 17th or 18th. And we got on a helicopter home 2 days, or a bird home just a couple days later. So it was the whole time pretty nasty.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you doing today? Like, I know you have a bunch of other things going on. Like, what's your podcast and war stories?
Dude, he's a TikToker and he's got a lot of followers. Let's hear about that, Preston.
Yeah, TikTok's been fun, man. I didn't do much on social media at all till just a couple of years ago. And I've always enjoyed military history, talking about it, reading it, watching it. But when it comes to talking about it, I didn't know where to do that. What group to engage with to talk about these random little things that come up, drive my wife crazy with these little tidbits that I come across and World War II stuff, whatever it might be. So just started making little short videos on TikTok, and it was a lot of fun. It was fun. It is fun. So just kept going. And those were too short to get into very much nuance. So started making a podcast. to get into a little more detail. And that's the bulk of my time now. So I technically co-own this business with my wife. She is 99% of the effort there. I do very little on the back end. And the majority of my time is these short videos. Now, a lot of the focus is on the war in Ukraine, just because I think we're living through a period of time that I've only ever studied.
Yeah.
So hard for me to look away from that. But
Right.
and then the podcast is much more history based. We'll do probably 1 in 4, 1 in 5 relatively current events, but the rest is historical.
Yeah.
Do you
I have
have
a
a oh, sorry,
no,
Commander.
sorry, go ahead.
Do you have a forte of military history like World War One, World War Two, Korea, Vietnam? Do you have
Yeah.
a special um, area of operation that you talk about and study?
If I had to say go live and talk about a conflict for 2 hours, it would be World War II. I feel the most comfortable talking about World War II, but I'm most interested in probably World War One or even Vietnam. I've just had a hard time. I think part of it's the language, the different villages and unit locations, and the nature
Yeah.
of the enemy in Vietnam is hard to track. It's not as straightforward of a war. And then in World War One, everything's in French. Most of it's in French, whether it's
We
yeah. And
we
I have a hard, and then the fact that the battlefield, it's one battlefield and there's 6 different battles fought over it over the course of 4 years. Trying to track that, it's challenging for me, but very, very interested in those two.
It's so like I said earlier, I was in the Navy, and I have some mad love for the Navy. I love everything Navy. But a fun
Blue Navy.
fact is I have
Sorry, Preston.
zero Navy tattoos, and I have 1 Army tattoo.
Oh, really?
And it's
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
that's Army.
Yeah, it's Old Hickory 30th Division.
Oh, cool.
My grandfather served in Old Hickory 30th Division, and they marched through Europe fighting Hitler. So Hitler, I'm sure you know, his elite unit was the SS Division. My grandfather's unit fought the SS Division not once but twice and kicked their ass both times. My grandfather's unit, Hitler ended up calling my grandfather's unit, I think it was Patton's SS Division. So my grandfather's unit got under Hitler's skin twice.
I like it.
This was
Hey,
pretty cool.
awesome.
hey, the Marines got a nickname too back then too. Tufel Devil Dogs.
Yes.
In 1917. I mean, come on.
That's where the inspiration for TSP came about, because my grandfather died a few years back, but for as long as I can remember, when I was a little kid, we lived about 6 hours away from my grandparents. They lived in northern Michigan. We lived in the Detroit area. And every time I would go up to see my grandparents, I'd always ask my grandpa about the war, 'cause I was just super fascinated by it. And then every single time he would choke up and tear up and sometimes break down and cry. And so, like, it was so bad. Like, my mom would always say, "Richie, stop asking your grandfather about the war. It upsets him." And I was like, man, I just have this like desire to learn everything there is to know. Like I wanted to know, 'cause my grandfather was literally the strongest person I've ever met in my life. And for a man that strong to break down and cry, like, I always want, like, what the hell did you see? So it always intrigued me.
Did he
And
ever
then
open up very much?
just a little bit, he just very little. So like he would tell me, like, so he killed this one German, and they'd go through his belongings, and he had a bag of jewels, and he took the bag of jewels over, and he dropped them in a well somewhere in France. And I was like, "Dang, Grandpa, why'd you do that, man? Like, you could have kept those." And he's like, "No, like, if a German was to ever capture you and you had another German's possession, they would just torture you like no mercy." So they made it a point to, like, anytime they wouldn't go through their things to take their things, they would just try to try to learn information, but everything else got disposed of, which I
Makes
thought
no
was
sense.
pretty interesting.
No.
So somewhere in France, in the bottom of a well, there's a bag of jewels.
Start looking.
We're going. Fleek, we're going. We got to
Yeah,
go find those jewels.
he was shot in the stomach right above the belly button 6 days before the war in Europe ended. So it was
Holy
almost
cow.
just shy of a week. Yeah, he had a big old scar right in the middle of his belly. But then after the war ended in Europe, those guys, 30th Division, was on stand down. They wouldn't let him go home yet because they were going to move him over to Japan and fight the Japanese. But luckily, 2 bombs dropped over there and they gave up.
That's an experience that I don't know how you could ever explain the feelings that people like your grandfather fighting across Europe,
Yeah,
and then they win. They're done.
yeah,
I say win because that part they did.
correct. Yes,
But then finding out that nobody knew that the war in Japan was about to end.
right,
Um,
exactly.
so think about that anxiety of, okay, we
Yes.
got this done. Now let's go do it again. Oh,
Mhm.
be hard to stomach.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine uh, anything about World War II, man. It's just crazy. Like, I mean, war is obviously hell at any time frame, but today, if you get shot or you get hit, within a couple hours, you're in a hospital getting taken care of. You know, they put you on a freaking jet and they fly you overseas, and you're in Germany getting all that medical treatment that you can get. You know, back then,
They
like,
didn't
what did
have
they
that.
have? They had like rubbing sticks on you. Like, what the hell?
Tourniquet, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Tourniquet, pack the
Field
wound.
hospital. Yeah.
yeah,
Remember to make the T on the forehead and the time you put it on.
yeah, yeah. So that time frame, man, that's yeah, I love World War II history. I don't know a lot of it, but
Yeah, me neither.
I'd love learning about World War II.
It's one of those subjects I've found where you probably know more than you think. You probably know more
Yeah,
than the average person, I guess I'll say.
yeah,
But as you learn more, you realize how little you actually know.
yes,
Um, it's at least 4 years. You could debate. You could argue that it was 8 years um, around the world with how many dozens of
yeah,
countries involved. Like it
hmm,
just it's a unlimited amount of information that we'll never be able
yeah,
to comprehend as
right.
individuals.
And what's amazing to me, it was basically the whole world against one country, like Germany, basically. Like, how could we just not go over there and just stomp on their heads and go home? You know, like this, it just raged for 40 plus years. You know, against Germany. I mean, they had other backings and stuff, but it's just fascinates
They're
the
pretty
hell out of me.
strong. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it fascinates me.
I think I had a great grandfather in the Coast Guard in World War II. I
it's
just found
awesome.
out. My cousin sent me the picture, and they I don't know, man. It was pretty surreal seeing that.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's kind of like what's going on in Ukraine right now.
It's
Uh,
funny.
e-
My mother was just talking about
Everybody thought that Russia was just going to go over there and just man out. I mean, they're over there slaughtering people, but they're not, they're like murdering innocent people. Like what they're doing is it's insane. But I got to give it to the Ukrainians, man. That they're some bold people.
what do you think, Preston? What are your thoughts
Um,
on Ukraine?
yeah, it's a tough one because the information flow is very challenging. So Russia has put out a lot of bad information over a long time,
Yeah,
and they're still saying things today that are just obviously false. Um, but Ukraine also puts
Hey,
out
Travis.
some information that isn't necessarily true to further their interest, which is what every country does in war.
yep,
And we just don't have access to everything. It's very difficult to parse out exactly what's happening on the ground. Big picture, we can get a pretty good idea, but um, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in the East. Russia's pretty much abandoned their northern advances. They've held on in the South for as many losses as they appeared to have taken in the North. Um, they've not really been pushed back at all in the South, Southeast, or East. Nothing material, at least. And they're starting to mobilize quite a few more forces in that location. I don't know what Ukraine has left. That
right,
information has been very quiet, probably for a good reason, or for a good reason. Um, but Russia's got a lot left they could throw into the fight, whether they do it efficiently and effectively, like a
Yeah.
combined arms fight, or if they just, kind of old Soviet tactics, maybe just try to overpower with artillery, missiles, and bombs, and then move through the rubble, I guess is yet to be seen. But um, I think the fight in the East could be bigger than anything we've seen so far.
So, what is the purpose of this war? Does Russia just wants Ukraine back?
I'm not an expert on this, so I'll start it with that.
Yeah.
My understanding prior to the conflict was the likely goal of Russia was to establish a land bridge on the southern portion of Ukraine over to Crimea, so they would have a warm water port in the Black Sea. So Russia doesn't have any warm water ports that remain unfrozen year round, which is a problem for their navy. Wasn't an issue during the Soviet years because Ukraine was a part of the Soviet Union.
Right.
They've thrown out a lot of terms. I would imagine that natural resources in the East, there's some sizable gas fields and
Yep.
natural gas fields in the East that I think would probably play into it. Ukraine's a heavy producer of wheat. Got to think that plays into it to a degree. Russia's thrown out a lot of terms like denazification. I don't really follow that one.
Yeah.
I try to look at all these different things and parse out like, well, where are they getting that? I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I think a big part is that Black Sea port, and retaking portions of eastern Ukraine. It's probably just as simple as resources, and they're probably using terms like denazification and freeing the oppressed Russian people as
Right.
as language to course over. Nobody wants to go to war
So-
for resources, but we always go to war for resources, right?
Yeah.
Always.
So Russia's not really looking all that good these days. I mean, their tanks are breaking down. They show on the news like a Ukrainian farmer just hook up a tank to his tractor and driving away. I mean, they looked like inept, basically, Like, doesn't this look bad to this should be like a stain on them to the other rest of the world? Like why would we fear Russia because their equipment's breaking down? It just looks bad all the way around. And when they do get somewhere, they have women and children hiding in a building. There's 400 women and children hiding in this building. So hey, Russia, let's blow this building up. I mean, it just looks bad all the way around.
It's unconventional.
My fear is that the weaker the Russian conventional military is, the more heavily reliant they are on their nuclear arsenal.
Yes, correct.
So we don't want war at all, but if they don't feel like they could thwart a attempt by NATO, so in the Russian mindset, NATO is always posing a threat. I think for the three of us and probably the folks listening, the idea of NATO invading Russia is not on the table. But if Russia is legitimately concerned about that, you have to take it into consideration for their planning. And if they don't feel that they can hold that off with a conventional force, that nuclear option becomes much more reasonable in their mind. So that's concerning to me right now. I don't want to see a Russian military that's top tier.
Right.
But it's a little bit concerning that they are having the issues they are. But again, we'll see what happens in the East, because I think we're going to have not find out all these different terms or kind of triggers unintentionally. So this is another phase of the war. We'll call it phase 2. I think we're going to see, it'll be interesting to see what they do there. If they don't learn at all, they're going to take some other pretty serious losses. And I don't know. I don't think that's very good for Ukraine, but I think it'll be interesting long-term to see what that means for kind of the NATO Russian stance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so another interesting point about this war that's going on, at the very beginning of it, a Russian warship took out an island, and there was communication between the island and this warship, and the island, the 11 guys basically said, "Fuck you, Russian warship." Well, that warship is sitting at the bottom of the ocean now. Some people are saying took a Ukrainian missile. Some people just saying it was a broke down heap of boat in the first place. Is there what is your thought on that?
Yeah, the last I saw, so it was really vague for a while. This is one of those where Ukraine right away said we did it. Russia right away said, this darn ship caught fire. and, and you get to choose who you want to believe, right? Eventually, I think it was just a couple days ago, so well after the event, um, I saw an unnamed DoD official said they believe that it was struck by Ukrainian missiles. Um, that seems like the more likely answer
Yeah,
right now. Um, I think that's a big uh, psychological victory. I think it's a big morale
yeah,
boost to Ukraine. I don't know how much that actually changes the picture on the battlefield. There were strikes coming from the sea from some of these missile cruisers, um, but there's a lot of other ships, a lot of other planes, a lot of other short range ballistic missiles, medium range ballistic missiles that can still be used. So I don't know that it changes that much from the Russian strategy perspective as much as it is a kind of morale boost to the Ukrainian
right,
people.
yeah. Yeah, they definitely needed that morale boost, that's for
I think that
sure.
was like the biggest ship sunk since World War II. I mean,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, before this even started, a couple of years ago, Russia's aircraft carrier caught on fire, and a bunch of sailors lost their lives in it, and of me being a American sailor on an
Sailor.
aircraft carrier, like, my heart went out to them even though they're, the enemy, but I still don't like, it still struck a nerve with me, you know? But, I mean, 'cause there's the human factor, you don't wanna see people die, especially somebody the same way you lived at one time, you know? That's a horrible way to die, being trapped in a compartment on a ship.
That's a nuanced piece of this that I'm struggling with a little bit. I you know, would have for a long time. You cheer at that stuff, right? The enemy
Yeah,
dies, and yeah,
yeah,
you erupt in cheers. And I've been there when you do on the battlefield, and I don't know, it just kind of takes over. But you're right. The people on that ship were the Russian soldiers in the tank that got blown up. And the number of tanks that blown up, those are 18-year-old kids.
yeah.
Um,
They have
maybe
parents.
they want to be there, maybe they don't.
Right,
And regardless of their intention or who they're fighting for, it it's really sad. Um, it's easier to study things in the past, but either side, these kids that are dying were on their iPhones 2 months ago, right?
right.
They were posting to Facebook and checking out their Snapchat. They're the same as us. They have the same
Absolutely.
fears as we
Yeah.
do, and yeah,
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of talking to other navies in my time, and like when I was in Korea, and I was the bar we were in. There were some Korean sailors in there, so which pretty much everywhere I went, everybody spoke English, so I was able to communicate pretty well, and it was very interesting talking to another country's sailors. It's very cool. They were very envious of us um, because they thought that we were uh, wealthy, and I was like, I make $600 a month. I don't know what the hell you're talking about." And he's like, "Well, yeah, I only make $25 a month."
whoa,
Like
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
something like super low. Like almost, it was like almost no pay at all.
holy
And
cow!
yeah, and those guys, when they turn like I think it's 18 years old, they're forced to serve their country for 2 years. Everybody has to do it. So
Um,
obviously we're
Preston,
volunteer.
do you know what countries they do that 2 years of service? Is that still on the table in some countries like Germany, Norway, Denmark? Like, do those places they still you have to do 2 years of civil service or military? Is that true?
I don't know. I know in Russia they do. So many countries have their own different little model. I know
Yeah.
Yeah,
Korea is one that had a
Okay.
mandatory
yeah,
service. I believe Israel.
Yeah, definitely Israel. Yeah.
Russia has a conscription model where it's not mandatory service per se, but it's similar to not mandatory service as in everybody goes, but a draft lottery of sorts. Bit different than what we had in the United States.
Yep.
Um, I was actually reading about something today, and I probably closed the tab and can't find it now. But yeah, it's gone. Russia has something similar to the closest comparison would be our civil air patrol, where it's not military, but it's kind of loosely associated. and the people in the Civil Air Patrol here in the United States would kind of be acquiring skills that could be beneficial to the military.
Yeah.
Boy Scouts, maybe. Maybe if Eagle Scout was like its own program. But Russia has something similar to that, where they have kids learning how to parachute, combatives, learning how to shoot rifles, disassemble AKs, land nav, computer science. And it's a civilian program, but it's designed, and it dates back to the Soviet Union. It's designed for when this draft comes about. They're going to look at Richard and say, hey, Richard did this civilian parachuting school. He's moving into the airborne when he gets drafted.
Thank
So
you, Joey King.
They kind of move them into areas where they have some experience already.
Yeah.
Finland, Sweden, and Switzerland. Yeah, I think you're right, Joey. My mom and I were talking about that today, about who's got the mandatory stuff, and I think in Switzerland, I didn't even know that Switzerland did that kind of stuff. So that's interesting. Thank you, Joey, and thank you, Preston, for that.
Yes. Yeah. When I was in the Navy, we did what we called a pineapple cruise, but the official name of it was RIMPAC, which is
RIMPAC.
the rim of the Pacific. So we would go out with our fleet, and we'd meet up with other navies and armies, and we'd do war games around the Hawaiian Islands. So we got to speak with, we interacted with quite a bit of other navies.
Very cool.
Yeah,
we
awesome.
did not do any of that. We just went on 3 deployments, and that was it. Iraq twice, USS Kearsarge. That was it. We did not have that much interaction with other Marine units. Me as a basic grunt, I didn't get to see that much, just a lot of firefights and explosions. So sorry, I don't have anything to add to this discussion. I'm just a hard charger that was sent to do all kinds of crazy stuff in Iraq.
You missed out, man.
I did. Well, yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I probably would have liked that stuff a little bit better than what I had to do. So,
I mean, every branch has their pros and cons, right?
well, Marine Corps, I love it, but it's also got a lot of cons. The crayon thing, which you Army, you guys gave us that. So thank you, Army, for that. And then the Navy, you guys just take us where we got to go fight. So that's that.
Yeah.
You guys are our Uber.
Yeah, and then we beat the crap out of you when you cross the equator.
Yeah, when you cross, yeah, dude, I see. Like, still, I can't run without it hurting. Because Press, I don't know if you know this. Do you know about the shellback ceremony?
I feel like I've heard that term before.
When you cross the equator on a Navy ship, you are a polywog before you cross, and once you do cross, you become a shellback. But you get hazed by this guy, by the Navy guys, all day long.
We get hazed too. So what happens is, first time you go across, you're a polywog, which a polywog is the lowest form of life. They don't have arms, legs, so you're not allowed to walk. You
have a little tail.
Yeah, you
That's
just
all you got.
crawl around the ship the entire day on your hands and your knees.
Sucks.
And then they beat the crap out of you with shillelaghs.
What's a shillelagh?
A shillelagh is a piece of fire hose that they cut off. It's about yay long, and they soak it in seawater for weeks, and then they dry it out so it's nice and hard, and they just tee off on your ass with that thing while you're on all fours.
It's like fraternity hazing, but times 10.
Sounds like enhanced interrogation is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it goes all day long.
Are you an interrogator too, Preston?
No. What are those? All those different methods that were outlined as to what you could and couldn't do. That sounds like it would fit in there. A cut of a fire hose, so long as it's soaked in seawater and left to dry, 3 times an hour.
There's a big old manual right there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So then after you do that, after you go through the hazing, then you're shellback. So the next time you cross the equator,
you get to do that.
You're raising hell on the polywogs.
Yeah.
So you're good to go for the rest of your life. And it doesn't matter who you are. If I don't care, like the lowest seaman to the high, like an admiral would have to go through it if he's
you all get the same equator. Punishment.
Everybody goes through it. It don't matter. Nobody has rank that day.
Hey, Preston, I got a big question, man. So at West Point, okay, for holidays, do you guys get steak and lobster?
Christmas dinner is steak and lobster.
Nice. Sorry,
Is
that
it
was my
That's
that
the
was a
one.
big thing on my mind. I needed to know.
It's a good. They got a pretty good dining facility there. It's giant.
Yeah.
It's really really big. Everybody eats together, breakfast and lunch, and then one dinner a week. All 4,000 sit down together. So it's large.
Hey, Preston, what was that movie? John Travolta and the General's Daughter. Did you ever see that movie?
I've not seen it. No,
You've
it's
never
like
seen?
filmed at West Point or
It's at West
a
Point.
part
Like
of. Yeah.
when you're going to those dinners, like each part of the army, they had different colors, right? So I saw these officers with like purple on their lapels, and then red, and then blue. Like, do they, is it like psyops was purple,
Oh, I
tank
gotcha.
tankers were red. I mean, it's but for officers, because you guys wear, the mess dress. Us enlisted, we don't get that shit. We don't get the fancy shit like that.
It just costs more money is the problem.
Yeah, you guys make more money than us.
So
Yeah, that's right, Major to be.
So you had the officer dress uniforms at West Point. It's all the same, all the old gray stuff. It's not the Army uniform. It's a cadet uniform. But so like field artillery is red, infantry is light blue. Yeah, special forces is green. Can't remember all of them, but yeah. So it'd be your rank would have a certain color, and then there's various other little things on your uniform that might have that color.
Nice.
for the Army Navy game in December, do you guys does everybody go to the game?
Yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah.
minor exceptions. You got to have, there's, maybe 50 people that stay back on post for various reasons. And then
Yeah.
other sports teams that have obligations that weekend would still go out and do their thing. But I mean, 90+% of the Corps cadets goes down.
So and it's mandatory to go?
Yes.
And
You get a weekend pass if you want to, and you can go
Weekend
get a hotel
passes.
room, stay with friends, do whatever you want. And if you don't want to take a pass, they'll do something called the boomerang, which at
What's that?
3 a.m. on Saturday, you get on a bus and in your full dress uniform, and you get shipped down to Philly or Baltimore, wherever it might be. You
right.
go to the game, and then you get right back on the bus and you drive back to West Point. It's not fun.
That sucks. That
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah,
like
that's
that
not the
sounds
way to do it.
horrible.
But you got to go. So if you're not, that's one option.
The
Boomerang.
It
Nice.
doesn't look comfortable being in that stadium with your dress uniform on either.
No,
Is
it's
it
not.
tight?
It can get tight if you drink too much beer. Junior and senior year, it gets tighter. It's just bulky. It's heavy wool. It's not designed for comfort. So it feels like it looks. There's not like a soft.
It looks very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. Yeah,
Do you
especially
wear
when they have you button the top up.
And you wear the hat with the plume on it, or cover, whatever you guys call it?
Yeah, for parades, those ones actually aren't bad. The hats aren't bad. They look a little funny, but the hats aren't bad. It's those jackets that are just
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah.
So I've still got them. They're in the closet.
Do you fit into them?
Yeah.
Lucky
So
dog.
do
That's lucky.
they serve beer at that Army Navy game?
I think so. I don't know. They might have changed because from the time they've changed the rules about beer at NCAA games.
Yeah.
So at West Point, they do not serve beer, but I believe those NFL stadiums, they at least have the capability to do that. I've only been to one game when I was not a cadet. When you're a cadet, you couldn't drink there. So I don't know if they served it or not. I wasn't looking for it. But the one game I went after I graduated, I don't remember. Probably
had too much. That's why you can't
yeah,
remember.
that's right.
Yeah. I just lost my train of thought. I literally just had a question for you and it went shot right out of my brain. So how do football players find the time to do like it's
good question.
It's super hard to be athletic and be at that level. But then you have the demand of the Army or the Navy. Like, how in the hell do they find the time to fit all the training in, plus all the military stuff that you go through? That is
So they get a little break during the academic year in terms of the military training, which isn't a lot. Your academic year, there's not a lot of military training. There's classes and things, but they take the same course load. The duty day generally wraps up around 1600, and they would then head off to practice and wouldn't be back until 7 o'clock at night sometimes. Um, and that's not quite year round, but close to it. And then a lot of times they'd have work on weekends as well. One of the ways that they kind of get around the lack of practice time, if you will, is they have meals together. So I had meals with my company mates, but the football players went off and had meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with their teammates, which is a benefit when you're a freshman. You don't get yelled at every breakfast. You get to hang out with your teammates. The biggest challenge in my mind for football players was the senior year. They have to make height weight in order to graduate. So the line, yeah, there's no exceptions to that.
Oh man.
So
Wow.
the linemen that you see on the Army football team, when they finish their last game, say it's a bowl game in January, or we'll call it December 20th. Army's not usually playing in January. December 20th, they've got 6 months, 5 months about to cut weight to where they can meet the Army standards. They get a waiver while they're at West Point, but in order to graduate, they have to make it.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Those guys get ripped. I mean, think about a lineman that drops 40 pounds or something in 6 months. I mean, they look crazy at that point.
Yeah,
But
so
I don't think any of my classmates failed to do that. It was pretty.
So
yeah.
how do they like get football players to go play at Army or Navy? Because first of
Did
all,
they recruit them?
but why would you want to go there and play when you can go to another college and have a chance to make it to the NFL, and you don't have to do all that extra stuff on top of it? But it would just seem to me to be like way easier just going to like a normal college.
It would be, yeah. They have a very small recruiting demographic. Generally, Army, Navy, and Air Force are relatively competing with each other when it comes to set candidates, because you're right. It has to be somebody who is a quality athlete. I mean, Army's been ranked in the top 25 a couple times in the last few years. Navy as well. They've put together decent programs, as of late, at least. Now, so they have to have players that were varsity, all state, maybe high caliber high school athletes to play at the Division I level, but also don't have aspirations necessarily to play in the NFL, because it's possible, just unlikely. It's maybe not the largest bucket of candidates to choose from.
Right. So a couple of years ago, Navy had a quarterback that was in the running for a possible chance at a Heisman Trophy, but like he had zero chance at making it to the NFL because he had to fulfill his commitment with the Navy.
Keenan Reynolds, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So he could have easily played at any college in the country would have loved to have that kid. But here he had a commitment with the United States Navy.
And they've changed that requirement up from year to year. So the time I was there, one guy got a deferment to go straight into the NFL, but he didn't make the team or something.
Yeah.
And his obligation was going to be reserve duty. So he was going to serve as a recruiter, which is still a good message for the Army, right? Big name person served in that capacity. But they've changed that. Like, I can't keep track of what the current expectation is.
To me, you would think the Army and the Navy would encourage them to try to make the NFL, because you could use that as a recruitment tool. Like if like why would I want to go to your school when I have aspirations to play in the NFL?
The side of that I understand, though, is the taxpayer to say, wait a minute, I just paid for Preston Stewart, who was not on the football team, to be clear, to go to West Point for 4 years to train to be an Army officer, and now he's going to go make $1 million in the NFL. That seems not right, but
it does. Yeah, I definitely see why it is, but sometimes I just feel bad for the kid that excels, because not everybody is a good athlete when they first start at college, at the collegiate level, but they grow and they turn into like some super freak human. For Tom Brady, for instance, he was a scrawny little runt, and
Tom Brady,
he was drafted like late. Now we know everybody on the planet knows the name Tom Brady, number 12.
Villanueva.
Hey, Preston.
Yeah.
Does West Point have a rowing team?
Yes.
You do. Hell yeah. Sorry,
Thank you. Yeah.
I tried to play hockey and I didn't get any schools. So I went down south and I rowed. And I actually didn't know you guys had a rowing team. That's pretty cool.
They've got most of the
Big sports.
sports. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So we're almost at an hour, so let's get back to war stories. What's your war
Ooh.
stories? I see your little plaque behind your right shoulder.
Yeah, my wife got me this, and then we changed the logo like a month later. So that's the show. War Stories with Preston and Sayer.
Nice, yeah. And your wife is involved in the show?
She has started to get more involved. So there's certain things that we needed help with, and she wanted to assist. So she's been reaching out to guests, sending form notes, putting together clips from videos. So she'll, after the show goes up or before the show goes up, she'll pull some clips down to put on Instagram as teasers, things like that. And has been doing a big job kind of scheduling. She put the website together and is reaching out, coordinating guests for us.
Man, I'm gonna have a talk with my wife.
Well, you got me, dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
what
got
are you talking about?
There you go.
You got me. I mean, I'm picking the guy for next week.
Yeah. I'm talking about like doing all the clips and teasers and
Hey,
building
you're
a
the
website.
IT bubba, man. That's your domain, sir.
I am IT, but I have a 9 to 5 that keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah, you need to do something about that job, man. It's a lot of
Pays the bills.
It does pay the bills, but we want to see you more
Yeah.
and not less.
Yeah. Well, my life is about to get real busy here. My first granddaughter's on her
Oh
way.
yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm going
Congratulations,
to be a
Commander.
first-time grandparent.
Love it.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. All right. Well, before is there anything that
Oh yeah. Do you
you
want to
wanna
plug
get-
anything?
did you want to
Preston?
plug anything?
The podcast, yeah. Just check it out
Yeah.
if you get a chance. We've got so it's the 17th, tomorrow morning, the 18th. We've got a Sebastian Younger episode coming out.
Nice.
Oh my God, I love his books.
Yeah, he's awesome. Awesome
He's-
guy. Yeah.
He's great.
So had a fun chat with him, and that's the next one up. And got some good ones coming up. Some nice VFW gentlemen we met last weekend will be out in the next couple weeks as well.
Hell yeah.
Really? Do I know them? I probably do.
Henry
Huh?
Hooper, Bob
Oh,
Walker.
dude, you're getting Henry on? Awesome. I
Tomorrow
love that,
morning.
man.
We're chatting with him tomorrow morning. Yeah.
Dude, that guy he's been a Marine. He's been Secret Service. He's been this. He's been this. He even fought Muhammad Ali when he was 17 years old. That guy is cool as hell.
I don't know how we're gonna. I don't know how that episode's gonna go because he's lived 6 lives.
Check out the VFW magazine from like 2 months ago. There's a story about him. And he's
Ryan
got
sent me
that
that.
picture
Yeah.
of him getting punched by Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad Ali. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty awesome. I wish I got punched by him.
You probably wouldn't have
I
got
wouldn't
up.
be here. I wouldn't be here right now.
You'd be a vegetable right now, Commander.
Yeah, I always thought like if you were a police officer and you showed up to a domestic disturbance or something, and Mike Tyson is there, just all freaked out and like ripping shit apart, I would just be like, "Hey, I quit, man."
My hands up. That's it. I'm done.
Walk away.
Yeah,
I have lived.
Man. I'm going back in the Navy. Those guys are incredible, man. Like I would hate to fight one of those dudes.
Yeah.
Hey, you should have seen the fight last night, man. One of our comrades, he knocked this kid out in the second round TKO. Eric, the Juggernaut Draper. I'm going to give a shout out to him. He did a great job last night. And TriStar Boxing. Good job, guys. We definitely need another fight there at the Embassy Suites here in Murfreesboro.
Yeah. Hopefully I can make it next time.
Yeah, well, he'll probably be playing fighting in Memphis at the FedEx Stadium.
Oh, that'd be cool. Right on.
Preston, thank you very much for coming out, dude. And I know you're busy, and we really appreciate you talking to us.
Yes,
absolutely, guys. Thanks for the invite. This is a lot of fun.
And thank you for your service, man.
Hoorah, West Point grad.
West Point. All right, man. Till next time, guys.
Sir, sirs.
Sirs.